Hello, hello, Tenno. This is Major Rags, bringing you another video about Warframe. So, a couple things right off the bat. If I run through this a little quick, it's because this will be the fourth attempt at recording this video. I've had connection issues, I was logged out of the game, I'm just sick of that. So, other than that, this will be my first time uploading a video to YouTube. I wanted something that could be saved and viewed later. I regularly Twitch stream about once or twice a week in the evenings. So if you're interested in that, my Twitch page is MajorRags, but with a Z instead of an S. Someone took my name. Been using this thing for about 16 years. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about Sentinels versus Kubrows. I'm certainly no expert at this game. I'm MR19. I started playing March 2014, I believe. So I've been playing for about 3 years with about a 6-month break in between. No expert. I've been back for about 4 months. But it feels like a lot of players misunderstand the roles of Kubrows and Sentinels. People are using the wrong Sentinels. They're using them incorrectly. You don't see many Kubrows, which I don't really understand. So, let's take a walk back to the arsenal and go over a couple of things. So, first thing I want to go over is Sentinels. We will be going over Sentinels and Kubrows. I have no Kavats at the moment. Something always keeps coming up that gets in the way of me collecting that 120,000 alloy plates. So, when you talk about Sentinels and Kubrows, what you're really talking about is versus utility. Sentinels do utility, Kubrows do damage, though they have, each one can do some of the other. So, what is utility? Utility is the Sentinel is going to aid you in certain ways. For example, the Shade has the Ghost ability, which cloaks you when an enemy gets within 30 feet or 10 meters. It has a 10-second cooldown and no maximum duration, at least as far as I remember. I haven't exactly looked a lot of this stuff up. No, we're kind of going off memory here for some of it. It is line of sight only. It's a very useful thing, and it will not attack while it's cloaked. Using abilities or attacking will release the cloak. Helios, you do see some people using Helios Prime. I do not use it anymore. Its utility is it scans enemies into your codex, and personally I don't like it. When you've scanned everything, there's no purpose to using the damn thing anymore. Deconstructor is not one of my favorite weapons with the 3-round magazine because it launches physically pieces of itself to do impact damage. But that's what it does. It scans things, and since it uses your scanners, it actually costs you credits to use. There's the Duraja. It's equipped with the sniper rifle. Does huge damage, very accurate, huge damage for a Sentinel anyway. I believe mine, let's take a quick look. I believe mine is doing... any Sentinel will do. Full clock. Oh. Doing about 1,100 damage with an 87% chance to do 5.5 times crit. So it's not too bad. You're talking more often than not, it's going to be doing about 5,000 damage. Closer to 6,000, over 6,000, whatever. I don't do maths. So, but its utility is in the fact that it electrocutes enemies within 5 meters, and it chains because it's electric based. So you're looking for status. It doesn't seem reliable, in my opinion. Though it doesn't seem to really be as useful as you'd think it was. It doesn't seem to lock up enemies. It doesn't seem to do it all the time. Maybe there's a problem with cooldowns or enemies distance gap between different enemies for chaining. I don't know. It just doesn't seem nice. I do use it in the plains because it's got the farthest range. Its precept is 70 meters, which is pretty damn far. It's far too far for most maps, and for plains it's pretty damn good. And with the accuracy like it is, that's not bad. So, then you've got Death Cube. Death Cube's utility is Vaporize. It hits an enemy within... Let's take a quick look so I can be sure of the range here. The range is the issue. Okay, 4 meters. So that's basically nothing. And it only deals 600 damage. This is, again, nothing. Even at fairly low levels, this is nothing. That's why, in my opinion, Death Cube is practically worthless. They need to do a pass over some of these things. In my opinion, if you're going to... Oh, and the cooldown on this is 30 seconds. That's hideously long. In my opinion, to make this thing useful, keep the 30-second cooldown, keep the 4-meter range, and then make it an instant kill of any standard enemy. No matter the armor or whatever. Instant kill. 4 meters is very short. So, Death Cube is practically worthless in my opinion. Jin uses Fatal Attraction. It draws enemies in, and when it gets a certain number of enemies in, it sprays them with toxin damage, which reduces armor and causes them to squirm or writhe. I've never particularly cared for Jin. The damage is low, the CC sometimes pops, or not enough enemies come in and it stops the lure, and then you've got a whole mess of enemies right around you. Shooting them stops the... Shooting one will stop it, knock it out of that lure. If you shot a bunch of them, sprayed them, they all break out of the lure. I just don't like Jin. Personal opinions, of course, that's what this is. Taxon zaps an enemy and gives back shields to you. Not bad, especially if you're playing something that's got lots of shields, like Frost Prime or something like that. The problem is, Taxon's got the same health and shields and armor as all your standard ones. 70 armor, almost no health, almost no shields. They're very, very squishy. Low levels, he might be useful, especially for newer players, but beyond that, Worm has a radial knockdown effect. Let's take a quick look. Crowd Dispersion, I got this in my #1 preset because I want this to proc all the time. 30 feet, not bad. 30 feet, if you get 2 or more enemies within 30 feet, every 15 seconds going to do this radial knockdown blast, dealing 10 or almost no damage. But it doesn't just knock them down, it sends them flying, ragdolling to a huge degree. If you're in most tile sets, it's not going to matter. Most maps, it's not going to matter. On the Plains of Eidolon, it's sometimes an issue, because what you're going to find is it's going to send enemies, especially if you're at the top of a cliff or something, it's going to send them flying a huge distance, and then it can be a pain in the butt to track them down, especially if it's a target you're trying to kill or capture, and then they go whizzing off 60, 80 meters away. But it's fairly useful, and it's very reliable. Every 15 seconds, a 30-foot radial ragdoll. Their weapons are mostly useless. Remember, this is not damage, it's utility. With the exception of the Volclock, and even then because of its rate of fire, which is... where is its rate of fire? Fire rate, oh my goodness, 0.15. That's horrific. If it was 1, it would be 1 shot every second. That's just terrible. At that low a number, adding to its rate of fire makes very little difference. But they're not for damage. Up until about level 30, perhaps 40, they can do some damage, they can get some kills, but after that you're looking at them causing more problems than it's worth. For example, you go down, you got your worm, you got your carrier, it's shooting, you're down, your threat level is low, so everybody starts shooting at it, and even with a tanky one like Worm Prime or Carrier Prime, especially Carrier Prime, they just pop. And it's very fast. And then unless you got regen, they're just gone. So, utility, that's what the Sentinels are for. That's what they do. So you've got crowd dispersion, invisibility, CC, and then to some extent you've got Guardian. Boom, your shield goes down, it's instantly back. Sanctuary, putting a shield around you, though Kubrows do have this one as well. Like I said, there's some overlap. Fired up, increased rate of fire. You don't see a whole lot in the Kubrows. MediRay, another popular favorite of mine, something I've just started to use. It heals you regularly. I think the cooldown is 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds for 4 of that you're healing. 12% is not a whole lot. If you're using something like a Banshee, you're probably looking about 18, 20 health total. But it's not going to keep you alive. But it's very good for repelling and healing over the course of a battle. Anytime there's any lulls especially, it's good. Slash or toxin procs on you. Now if you're using it with something like a Naros, both the 5,000 and 4,400 health versions of a Naros, you're looking at around 500 damage at least every 15 or so seconds. That's massive, especially considering the fact that he can heal himself. That will keep you alive. That's a pretty impressive amount. It adds a lot to survivability. So there is a Medi, but it's a Medi pet kit for Kubrows. And that keeps them alive. Better bleed out. Oh, that's not... Oh, health regeneration. Yeah, it keeps them alive. I'm thinking of pack leader. It heals them when you do damage with your melee attacks. So as far as Kubrows, they do the damage. Like for example here, my helmet does the most damage. You're looking at 722 slash. That's pretty fantastic with some toxin. 34% chance for almost 8 times damage. That's pretty impressive. This thing's putting out 6,000 or 7,000 damage here and there. The abilities, I'm not a particular fan of Proboscis. Trample is, in my opinion, a good way to send him out there to draw a lot of aggro and get fucked up. But with that amount of health and that amount of armor, it makes a difference. So if you don't know, every 300 armor doubles their effective health. So if you got 1,000 health and 300 armor, you've got effective health of 600. If you've got 900 armor, you've got 3,000 effective health. So since this one's got over 300 armor, it's looking at equivalent of 14,500 health. That's pretty fantastic. So they do have some utility. The Chesa fetches, but sadly only fetches one item at a time, and depending on how you've got its precept set up, if it gets distracted by attacking or something like that, or then there's pathing, it's got to come back to you. The other Kubrow that's pretty fantastic though is the invisible. It sends you invisible. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. Whereas Ghost has a 10 meter range, the Kubrow has 24 meter range. Where Ghost is line of sight, Shade is line of sight, the Kubrow is not. The Kubrow has a 2 minutes of maximum invisibility. This is double what you're looking from Loki. Ghost has no maximum, but you can use abilities without breaking your shield or your invisibility with the Kubrow, and you cannot with the Ghost. So keep that in mind. The only thing really that makes Shade better is the fact that Ghost doesn't break over time. The other thing is the tankiness. As you can see, I've got Link armor and Link health on here. If you can make it do so much more than a Sentinel is really capable of. If you have lots of shields, take off that Link health, throw on a Link shields. You can change what they do pretty impressively. And of course, got a phone call. Okay. I mean, I got 3 form on this thing, and I obviously need another to really get this thing maxed out. And it's pretty impressive the way it is. Oh, and they bleed out. They don't just die, they bleed out. And the bleed out time is fairly significant, which can be lengthened. There it is. See, this has bleed out increase too, but there you've got some more. So, it's pretty impressive. They can be pretty impressive for damage. But for utility, the Sentinels are where it's at. So here's where the problem I've seen people run into is, if you want to mess stuff up, use a Kubrow. And you don't see many of them. So obviously damage isn't what people are trying to mostly do. They want the utility, right? But then, I see everybody running carrier. Almost everybody runs carrier. Well, unless you're using like a Soma or a Bratton or a full auto shotgun, something like that, there's no point in running carrier. Carrier gives you ammunition. It's fantastic with Somas and stuff, but if you're using a bow or your standard shotgun, sniper rifles, it's not really working for you. There's no point. You're going to get enough drops for ammunition and such. Vacuum that's what I think is, everybody's so used to using carrier all the time for vacuum that now that vacuum is capable of being used by anything else, people just still use it because that's what they're used to doing. Personally, here's my favorite setup. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of people complain to me about, why would you use Worm? He's worthless. Well, no, he's not. If I'm going to be using a Soma on a mission, yeah, I'll run carrier. But now, Worm is my go-to Sentinel because of that knockdown. Keep people away from me. Jump into a group of enemies, and I know that they're going to all go flying. And then I can pick them off on the ground at my leisure. And then I run Death Machine Rifle for the moment, because it actually has some decent damage. Though I'm probably going to switch that off to Prisma Shade. That weapon here, as soon as Barrel-Katir brings it back. I'm going to probably need another Forma on this, but as you can see, it's not doing so bad a damage, because if we actually, just a moment, let me work the numbers out. I should have done this beforehand. Okay, so it's doing 92 damage per shot, spread around, and then it's doing 105 damage a second. 105 damage a second. That's not too bad. Now I believe it's actually a touch more than that, counting fired up, but let's just call it 105 damage a second. That's not too bad. Now as soon as I get my hands on the Prisma Shade weapon, it's got 10% chance for status. Now you can get that up with some mods to about 20%, and it's got a high rate of fire, and it has a 0-second reload speed. So in other words, even though it's only 20% status chance, you're looking at a status machine. You throw something like that on like electricity or something that's gonna lock an enemy up, it's like a machine gun status machine gun. So my Worm rant will be, Worm is my favorite, my new favorite. It's very reliable CC. You see it's got 210 damage, which I can get up a little bit more when I pop another Forma on here. I could upgrade this stuff now, as a matter of fact, to see if I can't double, because I'm looking for that magic number 300 for armor. It's got a good amount of health. It's got fantastic shields. The shields recharge quickly, and so it's pretty tanky. It's not a carrier, because carrier's health is in its health, not its shields, and it's got the high armor, so you're looking at an effective health with armor considerations of over 2,000. But it's very tanky. It's got reliable CC, and I get shit, really. Sometimes people ask me, well, why would you use that thing? Why are you using carrier? Come on, diversify a little bit. Spread your wings and reach out and try something new. You probably see people just use carrier and maybe a Kubrow. But there's so many more options out there. Use them all. I use if I'm doing a stealth mission, I take my stealth Kubrow because it's more reliable than Ghost, and it's harder to get surprised by an enemy. It saved my butt from being caught on multiple occasions. So what I'm curious is, which do you use? My concern is people aren't using the correct companions when they should. So what do you use, and why? Leave your reply in the comments, and everybody have a good day.